Hey guys, what's up? Ruben here from the Midnight Garage. So we got another build video. This time it's an EF chassis, and if you've seen my previous Mugen Rothmans 3rd generation Honda Civic video, then I'm sure you're going to like this video as well, because this car is finger licking good, as they say at KFC. Now, this car is owned by my good friend Dylan. It's been a project that's been a couple of years in the making, so allow me to get you back up to speed, because this car had been featured previously in some videos of the Midnight Garage. So, in order to get you back up to speed, we first need to go back about 2 years. Originally, Dylan planned to use a red chassis to build this car, but as luck would have it, a much better shell came up for sale. So he sold the red car and picked up the black shell. As he still needed a daily driver, he bought himself a JDM Toyota Chaser. However, Dylan noticed that Chasers are pretty expensive to drive as daily drivers, and after the police raid at our previous warehouse, the JDM DC2 Integra Type R came up for sale, so he quickly sold the Chaser to pick up the ITR, hoping it would lower his daily driver expenses. This turned out not to be true, as he quickly wrecked his B18C, swapped it for another engine, which subsequently blew up as well. Dylan had it at this point, so he sold the ITR with the broken engine at a loss, picked up a Nissan and decided to focus his efforts on finishing his EF Civic. He had the full shell repainted white and got a shop, which I will not mention by name for reasons that you will come to understand later in the video, to finish the car. They installed a B20 VTEC, did a wire tuck and some other stuff, but progress was super slow, so after more than a year of hardly any progress, we decided to bring the Civic over to the Midnight Garage so it could actually be finished. And that basically brings us back to where we are at now. So as you guys know, I have a lot of wire tuck related videos on my channel, and I always say take your time, use proper materials, make sure that you solder everything, and make sure everything's done right, and it's better to spend a bit more time on it rather than rushing it, because there's a big chance that you're going to get electrical issues and you don't want that with a wire tuck. Now, this car had been wire tucked twice before by two different guys, and they both, well, I think they rushed it, so there are electrical issues. So now I have to go through the entire wire loom and fix every issue I can find, and I just love that so much. Not. One of the issues was that the city light on the left hand side did not work, so I resoldered it. Let's see if it works now. That's a good sign. Does it still work with the headlights on? Yep, that works. Now only like 5 or 6 more problems to go through. Yay! Right now I fixed the horn. And that was the last thing that we needed to do up front, so now we can put the front back on. When we were busy putting the front back on, we noticed that the windshield washers did not work. It is mandatory by law in Holland, so we redid everything and then put the front back. As you can see, the car is running an EF9 front, has EDM glass headlights and a genuine Chargespeed front lip. On a quick side note for the rest of the video, you will not find any replica parts on this car. If you do find something, post it in the comments, but I think it's highly unlikely. The last thing to finish up the front is the bonnet or the hood, depending on, you know, where you're from. It is actually from one of my CRXs, which you can occasionally see in the background. It was slightly damaged and I swapped it out for a carbon one, and Dylan managed to fix it up real good. It's a temporary fix though, as Dylan wants to get a fiberglass bonnet later on to lower the weight of the car even more. But if you think that that was it electronic wise, don't worry, because when I turn the lights on, the brake light comes on, and all the other lights go into brake light mode. Yeah, more electronic issues, just what I wanted. While I was busy rewiring half of the car, Dylan was focusing on the seats and seat belts. The seats are brand new Recaro Pole Positions mounted on Recaro sliders, and the combination of both seats and sliders are more than I've spent on some of my car projects in total. Right now Dylan is installing his seat belts. Personally, I would have gone with Takata seat belts, as they would look good in combination with the FIA cage, but he opted to go for black Willans seat belts, as those were the same as the real PIAA race car had. And now we can finally start the car for the first time. Yeah? Yeah. We finally got it to run, but since the car has a B20 Frankenstein engine on the base map, it was very important to get the car mapped as soon as possible. Luckily, the dyno is literally a few miles down the road, so that's where we're headed to first. Being a true professional automotive YouTuber, I have no footage of the actual dyno session, but I do have some footage of us testing the car after getting it mapped.
It's mapped.
Now that we got ourselves a running B20 VTEC engine, it means that we have to go to its annual inspection, and once the car is through its annual inspection, that means it's legal to go on the road, and then we can actually test stuff. But since the alignment shop is right next to the annual inspection store, I am going to install a set of Hardrace tow arms first. Installing the Hardrace rear tow arms were one of the last things that still had to be installed suspension wise. As you can see, the car is running Hardrace adjustable front and rear camber arms and a set of lower control arms. It also has a BC Racing coilover kit, Hell brake lines, 282/262 big brakes and a K-tune traction bar. All the other bushings, such as the rear trailing arm bushings, were replaced by polyurethane ones. Since we are looking underneath the car, I might as well show you some other cool stuff, such as the hemp filter and the Moroso oil pan. But why are we exactly looking underneath the car? That is because we had to finish up the exhaust. Dylan had a custom exhaust made, but at this point it was only partially finished. With the car moved to the midnight garage, we had to finish it up ourselves. Luckily, we have Case, who is more than happy to finish the job. For those who have been asking in the comments where Case is, it's actually quite simple. Case really wants to be in more videos, but between school, his work and social responsibilities, it is really hard to find the time to actually do so. So yeah, if you miss him just as much as we do, please write in the comments. Case, you cuck, why focus on your career when you could also make YouTube videos for literally tens of people? Alternatively, you can write it on a piece of paper, wrap it around a brick and throw it through the window of Plantiusplein 31 4812 SE Breda, the Netherlands. Back to the exhaust, it is a custom made stainless steel 2.5 inch exhaust front to back, and it's fully in compliance with Dutch laws, and we are about to hear it for the very first time.
Yeah.
With the full suspension set installed, it's time to align everything, but Dylan isn't going to track his Mugens. He is, however, going to track his Volk Racing wheels, so we are going to swap them over, and then we're going to align everything and corner weight everything, and then hopefully it will handle a lot better, because now everything's just a little bit random. Even though Mugens are cool and they actually match the real PIAA EF9 race car, Dylan actually had another set of wheels in mind when he's going to track this car. And that is a set of Volk Racing TE37s wrapped around some Advan Neova 8008 RS semi-slicks. Now, having fully adjustable suspension is cool and everything, but it's pretty useless if you're not going to plan on getting everything aligned properly. So we didn't just pick a regular alignment shop, but rather we went for one that focused mainly on race cars. This shop mainly did Porsches and Mosters for competition use, so we felt confident that they would align it properly. In the end, we picked the full package, where the car not only got a complete alignment, but they also corner weighed everything, and they used dummies with the correct weight of the driver and passenger to set everything up. We got some compliments from the shop owner about the quality of the build, and then we drove back. And let me tell you, this was literally a day and night difference in the way the car handled, so I can highly recommend this to anyone. Well, you might notice my hip new fashion accessory. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that in a different video, but long story short, always wear safety equipment. Now, I still have 24 hours to work on this car, and by the end of the 24 hours, this car needs to look like this car. And yeah, that wouldn't really be such a big issue, but yeah, my eye might make this a little bit more difficult than it usually is. Me having messed up my eye actually was a bigger problem than you might think. The car was selected to be parked at the main display of Honda EuroMeet 2019, which was less than 24 hours away. As you probably know, wrapping a car is usually the part of a project I enjoy the most, but me being injured made it pretty hard to do so. Not only could I not see any depth, but I could also not handle too much light, which are two things that are very important if you want to wrap a car properly. Luckily, Dylan and Romy both don't mind getting their hands dirty, so with the three of us we could actually move some weight and get the car done. The wrap itself was mainly inspired by the PIAA race car I showed you earlier, but with a few minor modifications so that some brands actually match the car more. In the end, it was a lot of work, but the three of us did manage to get the car done in time for its trip to Honda EuroMeet 2019 in France. Boy, I sure hope nothing bad happens on its way there. Oh look, something bad happened on its way there. So, what exactly happened? It turns out that the unnamed garage that worked for the car for over a year actually forgot to properly fill up the gearbox with oil. The thing is that the only way to see if the gearbox is properly topped up is to drain everything and to refill it. So we did not check it, as surely the garage would be competent enough to perform such a basic task. Turns out they weren't competent enough, and Dylan's LSD gearbox blew up somewhere near Antwerp. All our hard work to meet the Honda EuroMeet deadline, all for nothing. Luckily, Dylan managed to find another LSD gearbox a few weeks later, which he had rebuilt with the help of Marcin. And then we had to do the super complex task of simply spending a few minutes to actually refill the gearbox so that it wouldn't happen a second time. Luckily, the story did get a happy ending, as the car did get invited to 100% Auto Life, which is one of the biggest car shows in Europe. All that hard work did finally pay off, as they say. That is not to say that the car is done, as there's still one final thing left to do. With 100% Auto Life done, we can finally install the final part on the car, and that's actually a luxury item, namely power windows. Now, we wanted to install them earlier, but we didn't have the wiring, so we couldn't do it. So that's why we're going to do it today. And why are we going to install power windows on a track car, you might ask? Well, let's just say that manual windows and a roll cage don't really work that well together. While I was installing the power windows, Dylan put the Mugens back for the final rolling shots. Like I said, this video had been about 2 years in the making. We all put a lot of hard work in the car. Not everything went according to plan, but we didn't give up, and the end result does show it. In the end, we are pretty happy with how it turned out, and I hope you guys enjoyed the build process just as much. Now it's time to finally drive the car.